Chapter 34. When I swung by my office to check the mail, I found my office door lock sprung, and by a pro. I flipped a 2-bit piece. Heads, I did my patented rolling entry routine. Tails, I took it on the lam. The coin hit the floor, rolled under the door, and into my office. I was down on my hands and knees, peering under the crack to see how the coin had landed, when the door swung open, and I found myself at eye level with Rusty Hudson's Argyle socks. With the tip of a spit-shined brown cordovan, he scooted my quarter under my nose. "It came up heads," he said. "Does that mean you go or stay?" I pocketed my coin and stood up. "You know, when you come calling and nobody's home, it's customary to wait outside." "You wouldn't want me waiting out there in that drafty hallway, would you?" He slammed the door shut behind us. "I might have caught a cold." He ambled through the waiting room into my office. "You fumigate this furniture yourself?" he asked. "Or did Goodwill throw it in as a free extra when you bought the stuff?" He wasn't a particular big guy, but he had a presence that filled the room and seemed to squeeze me toward the wall as I walked past him to my chair. "You want something specific, or did you just drop by to cheer me up with your sparkling repartee?" He sat down on the edge of my desk. It reacted to Hudson about the same way I did. It shuddered under his weight, but held steady. "You've been poking around the Rocco DeGreasy case the past few days," Hudson said, in the same tone he would use to accuse me of a hatchet murder, "and I want you to knock it off. Everything was nice and closed up tidy, then you came along and started sniffing around, and all of a sudden the word comes down from the top that maybe the case ought to be opened up again. You know, Valiant, I got me a perfect record. I never been wrong on a case yet, not once in 20 years on the force, and I don't mean to break that record now. The DeGreasy case is closed. Get it? Closed. You know what's good for you, you'll accept that as gospel. I can yank your license in a minute, Valiant, and a lot of big boys downtown would consider it goodbye to bad rubbish. You want to stay in business and keep on everybody's good side, you do what I tell you. Understood?" I nodded. He gave me a playful poke that nearly broke my jaw, and left me to decide my own fate. I pulled out my trusty quarter and flipped it. It hit the floor, rolled on edge, and disappeared from sight, this time into a baseboard mouse hole. I peered in after it, and saw a toon rodent in yellow shoes and red Bermudas rubbing a swollen lump on his head where my quarter had clobbered him. I was just about to ask the mouse if the coin had landed heads or tails, when he turned, saw me looking in at him, and bopped me on the nose with a word balloon as foul as anything you read in the flames at a blue nose's book burning. I sat down at my desk and poured myself a snootful of liquid wisdom. It told me to pack it in and head south until the problem vanished along with Roger. But like I said, nobody ever accused me of having an overabundance of good sense. I had an obligation, and I wasn't about to quit until I fulfilled it. I stopped by the Persian deli to see if Abu Ben's uncle had been able to decipher the inscription off the bottom of the tea kettle. While Uncle trundled out from the back room, Abu Ben treated me to a plate of something that looked like it had been kicked up off a dirt road by a highballing truck, and a glass of whatever bidons used to fuel their hurricane lamps. Uncle handed me his scribblings. When I translated what he had translated, it read, "May your dreams come true." I asked Abu Ben what this meant. He said it was customary to inscribe such things on Persian tea kettles. He showed me several similar tea kettles he had for sale in his deli, all inscribed on the bottom with a short platitude about peace, good luck, or prosperity. He did not know when the custom of inscribing tea kettles began, but he remembered it from when he was a boy, and so did his ancient uncle. Abu Ben invited me to stick around for an impromptu floor show featuring his eligible sister, the belly dancer, but when I saw the size of her belly, I beat a hasty retreat. I found Dominic DeGreasy in his office, trying to figure out how to work a paperclip. "Here's the story," I told him. "I've got a line on your tea kettle, but I need to make sure it's the right one. Do you have anything that shows it? A drawing maybe, or a photo?" He threw the paperclip into a pile with a pair of scissors, a letter opener, and other assorted high-performance office implements too complex for him to handle. Yeah, I got something. I got something right here." DeGreasy opened his desk and produced the artwork for a Baby Herman comic strip. The strip had been shot on location in Roger's bungalow. The third panel showed Roger in his kitchen. On the stove behind him sat the tea kettle. "That's it," said Dominic. "That's my grandmother's tea kettle." I took the strip from him. "Okay to keep this?" I asked. He nodded. "I'll be back to you shortly," I said, "with your brother's killer in one hand and your tea kettle in the other." 3 burly guys carted boxes and crates from out of Carol Master's studio to a moving van parked on the curb. I found Carol packing the last of some lights into a cardboard carton. "Leaving town, I see." I held the top of the carton down while she did a sloppy job of taping it shut. "How about if, for a going-away present, I give you a half-hour head start before I tell the cops about your shady shenanigan?" "Go ahead, be smart," she said haughtily. "I still believe what I said about you. You never cared a bit for that rabbit. If you hadn't lugged into this forgery angle, you would have taken your money and run with it long ago." "That's one woman's opinion. Now let me read you my version of reality. You got something a lot worse than art forgery to cover up. You're knee-deep in murder. Rocco called you the night he died. He threatened to turn you in. You got scared. You hot-footed it over to his place, shot him, framed the rabbit for it, and shot Roger too." For once I caught her speechless, and to tell you the truth, I liked the change. "That's absurd," she said when she found her voice again. "Sure it is. But if I yell it loud enough and long enough, I could get a lot of folks to believe it." "You must play a swell game of hardball," she said. "Not really. When I pitch, I'm too inclined to throw for the head." I showed her the strip I'd gotten from Dominic. "Rocco once refused to approve a strip you photographed. Was this it?" She took it in her hands and examined it. "Yes, that's it. He said it was below syndicate standards, although he never explained exactly what he meant by that. He'd never quibble with anything else I ever shot for him." I took it back. "What do you know about the DeGreasy brothers' background? Where did they get their start in the business?" The moving men wheeled out the last of her belongings. She gave her studio one last going over. She left behind a few pushpins stuck into the wall. She took them out and put them into her purse. A very thorough lady. When the bloodhounds came tracking, they'd sniff no trace of her here. I walked her down to the street. "I heard the DeGreasys came from somewhere back east," she told me. "But they never talked about it. I always got the feeling they were embarrassed by their background. I assumed they had grown up poor. I don't know how they got into cartoons." "Ever meet any members of their family?" "Little Rock?" "I mean besides him." "No, never." "Was Little Rock's mother a human?" Her condescending tone told me how naive she considered the question. "Of course she was a human. Rocco was a human. What else could his child's mother be? Humans and toons can't mate, everybody knows that." "You have any idea why Jessica Rabbit might be interested in mythology?" "The less I know about Jessica Rabbit, the happier I am." She climbed into the back of the van with her stuff. "You got a forwarding address?" I asked her. "General delivery," she yelled back as the van rolled away. "Which town?" I asked. "You're such a hot detective," she said. "You figure it out." I had a guy in the police department who owed me a favor. I called and asked him to get me a history on the DeGreasy brothers, particularly through their early years. He promised to run it through,